All right, a big, warm welcome to everyone. Can we get a round of applause for this audience? We have a fantastic lineup today. Is Jenna here? Oh, please sit there. We're also very organized, so we've just freed up a seat for someone. Great, so my name is Lee Winowicki. I am a soil scientist. I work at C4eCraft based in Nairobi, and I lead our global research theme on soil and land health. And today we are celebrating World Soil Day. And we need to think about, what is soil? What is soil? Everyone just think in your mind, what is soil? And I'm guessing that we're all having a different picture in our head about what is soil. But there actually is a definition. It's the biologically active layer of the Earth's surface. It has physical, biological, and chemical components. And it's important that we remember that it's this complex ecosystem. And this morning's panel, we were charged with what is the definition of healthy soil? Because we're here to talk about healthy soil. So I put up a definition that the Coalition of Action for Soil Health uses, and it's the ability of soil to sustain productivity, diversity, environmental services. And we know what those environmental services are, right? Storing carbon, water, storing water, filtering water, providing nutrition to plants and animals. But we also know our soil is under threat. Over a third of the Earth's surface is degraded, and then that is why business, as usual, is not an option. And that is why we have such a diverse audience and panel to talk about solutions so that we do not continue to see an increase in degradation. That's the overall goal of the Coalition of Action for Soil Health, to scale healthy soil practices globally. Very simple. These are our targets. So you're going to hear about some of these from our panelists of how to integrate soil into policy, expand action research, increase healthy soil practices with farmers, and we also have bankers here, finance, we have private sector. How do we increase that? Financial investments. So, a quiz. What is the most biodiverse terrestrial ecosystem? Soil! Nikita wins a button. What stores 3 times more carbon than the atmosphere? Oh, Paul gets us button! What stores more than 50? Oh, Seth gets a button. So, because soil is so diverse, this is why we have this esteemed panel, so many voices to be heard. We'll have opening remarks. We'll have 2 shifting panels. Believe it or not, we will have time for questions. So with that, it is my esteemed pleasure to welcome the CEO of C4eCraft, the DG of eCraft, Dr. Eliane Ubilajoro.
Good afternoon, everyone. I can see we all love soils. I usually thought it was just Lee and me, but I'm like, hey, we have a whole community. So thank you all we really needed we needed a party, really. So I just want to say good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for hiking from wherever you were before on this wonderful Expo Dubai campus and reaching us for this session. It's a pleasure for me to open this session. And when better to talk about this than the World Soil Day, really. It's just wonderful to have all of you here on this particular day. So Lee always says this, and I just think it's wonderful. Soil is the skin of the earth. Let's all hold that, use that everywhere. It's from Lee, or no, it's from Ratan Lal, our 2020 Food Prize winner. And so something we should all remember every day and everywhere we go. So healthy soils is the very foundation of our food systems. It provides vital ecosystems, from carbon sequestration to improving food and nutrition security, to regulating the water cycle and hosting biodiversity, of course. But we don't treat soil nearly as well as we should. Over a third of the Earth's surface is degraded, including half of all agricultural soil. Our efforts to combat land degradation and desertification and to move from scarcity to prosperity will need to focus on how to scale soil health globally. We know that continuing business as usual is no longer an option. The need to transform our food systems has never been more urgent. At C4ICRAF, we recognize the critical role of science in supporting soil health. And this work wouldn't be possible without enthusiastic collaboration from so many partners around the world, and every one of you here in this room. So the organization is a global center of excellence for soil and land restoration, integrating soil information and soil organic carbon accounting. We also do trees. And this incredible body of research and action on the ground plays a key role in building food and nutrition security, partnering on national restoration goals, and achieving climate commitments. Our work provides solid, actionable research on soil and land health. Through state-of-the-art soil spectroscopy lab and the most extensive database of land health indicators available. So please come to us if you're working in this space. This complements our decades-long expertise in the field of agroforestry, which can reduce soil erosion by 50%, and if implemented on a large scale, can increase food security for 1.3 billion people. And it would be remiss of me to not mention that C4ICRAF also co-leads the Coalition for Action for Soil Health. The coalition directly informs global soil agendas and ecosystem health investments, and is an excellent example of the value and power of multi-stakeholder action holds, showing how we can build an enabling framework that supports finances, scales, and monitors healthy soil ecosystems. And we already have something to celebrate at COP28. Last week, soil health and biodiversity were acknowledged by the Emirates Declaration on Sustainable Agriculture, Resilient Food Systems, and Climate Action. More than 130 countries have signed on to this agreement. This is great progress already. Because food systems and soil health have historically been overlooked in climate summits until now, this is a really great achievement. But this is just the beginning. We need to leverage this momentum to ensure we have soil health action on the ground everywhere in the world. We need to partner with smallholder farmers to implement and scale practices that build soil ecosystems. We need policymakers to incentivize action on soil health. We need to encourage the private and public sectors to generate funding to support this work. And we need to ensure that these actions are based on evidence, bringing in the best available data to help scale locally appropriate interventions. And whenever evidence is lacking, we need to invest in innovative solutions for monitoring and measuring soil health. This will allow us to fill key gaps on what works where, for whom, and at what cost. We want it to be cost effective. And I'm pleased to open this session today, and I'm eager to hear from our distinguished list of speakers. Let's continue the momentum so far at COP28 and continue building partnerships, sharing knowledge, and guiding policy to heal the Earth's skin. Thank you.
That is the best scene setting we could have possibly gotten. Thank you so much, Eliane. Now, let's hear from our panel. So we have our very first panelist, Elizabeth. You're representing East African Farmers Federation. What is your wish? What is your ask from the community to action soil health practices for the smallholder farmer? Please go ahead, introduce yourself, and you have 4 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm And let me start by wishing everyone a happy World Soils Day. And listening from the two speakers, I think you've already said it all. Yeah, so it's really it's really very clear that soil is the largest carbon sink. And that is really what came out from what you've presented in your opening statement. But also we need to know that it's the largest resource when it comes to carbon sequestration, and especially on transforming our food systems, but also on climate resilience. But when you look at what is happening with our soil, as we speak today, I think most of the soils have been depleted because of prolonged use of conventional fertilizer by most of the farmers. And so it has really lost productivity. And by losing productivity, it means soil health is already affected, because the overuse of conventional fertilizer increases acidity. And the challenge is that we have a lot of pressure, especially from feeding livestock from us as smallholder farmers. So it's not easy lately, to compost, to do composting, for example, to practice the good agronomic practices. Because most of the farmers are looking at what would be the materials used for composting, for feeding livestock. So it really becomes a challenge. But when you look at all that pressure on the soil, of course, plus other practices like deforestation, they've all become athletes, because most of the grounds have been left bare because of the activities of agriculture, and all these are affecting the soil health. But our farmers are also doing a lot in terms of trying to address the issue of soil. We are practicing a lot of crop rotation. We are practicing mulching. We are growing several cover crops. We are trying to practice, again, the good agronomic practices. And farmers' organizations are doing a lot in terms of making sure that some of these practices that are small in nature are put to scale by the different farmers across different regions. So what are we doing as the Eastern Africa Farmers Federation? For us, agroecology is very key. And we are trying as much as possible to promote agroecology within our membership. I come here representing voices of over 25 million smallholder farmers in 10 countries of Eastern Africa. So all our 25 national level farmers organizations are looking at agroecology as a solution, to protecting our soil. And we are promoting practices like afforestation and also reforestation, where forests have been cut down. We are trying to see how we can promote afforestation. But we are also supporting our member organizations to come up with programs that are promoting agroecology. We have a new program under CAFI in DRC that we are going to be implementing very soon. We also have a proposal where we are looking, and we're here looking for support with most of you partners. It's on hydrogel and how we are going to combine it with composting, to be able to increase organic matter in the soil, but also improve water efficiency in the soil. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. And so important to hear from the voice of the farmers. And next to you, we have Roland. He's the CEO of Rabo Carbon Bank. And I want to hear, what are the actions of Rabo Carbon Bank in the next 12 months to support these, how many? 25 million smallholders that Elizabeth was talking about? No small questions here.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. So we're doing a lot, actually. Let me first take one step back, and there's a very strange thing about banking and farming. And why is that? Because more sustainable farmers, normally by banks, are considered more risky farmers. And why is that? Because they don't take into account the degradation of soil. If I put solar panels on my roof, the collateral of my house goes up immediately. And that's not the case with farming and soil. That's strange. So what do we do? We stimulate, incentivize farmers to increase their soil, hence become less risky farmers. So one of the things from a banking perspective. So we have a lot of projects. I think the most scalable one at this moment is Acorn, which is a agroforestry incentivizing program for smallholder farmers worldwide. So we incentivize smallholder farmers to put trees on the land, which obviously is very good for the soil. We monitor the increase in biomass, and we create a high qualitative carbon credit, and 80%, so 80% goes back to the farmer, 10% to the bank, and 10% to organizations that help with the operational, that help on the ground. So, and this is scaling massively at the moment. So we have onboarded, in 1 year, we have onboarded 250,000 smallholder farmers, Africa, Southeast Asia, Asia and Latin America. We want to go to 700,000 next year, and we want to go to 7 million in 3 years. That's really a scalable model. We sell it for $35, and again, there's a lot of money going into the smallholder farmer livelihoods. Next to that, we're creating a fund for 200 million, supporting, pre-financing the seedlings for agroforestry. So I'm talking to all the big organizations from World Bank to USAID, etc. So next 12 months, I hope to have 200 million. We're going to pre-invest in smallholder farmers. They don't have to pay anything. The only thing they have to do is plant trees. 80% normally goes to the smallholder farmer. We take 50% for the 40% of that 80. 50% of that 80. So goes to the repay of the loan. Still, a big chunk goes to the smallholder farmer. And once the loan is being repaid, they get the 80% of the carbon credit. I think this is massively. It's already working. It's not on paper. It is working, and I think that is. That is. I think. How we can support. And I also have a big project on avoiding legal deforestation in Brazil, but that's for the biggest farmers. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay, so you are doing a lot. That's fantastic. So I am so pleased that we have a youth representative here. So Jenna is the director of the Young Professionals for Agricultural Development, YPARD. And I really want to hear from you, Jenna, about how YPARD can take action to raise awareness for soil health, to scale soil health, and really the voice of youth. We really want to hear from the next generation. Give us some action points.
Thank you so much. I think what I want to tell you is partner with us, right? Because we are a lot of young, energetic, professional young people looking to further our careers. And really what I wanted to start out with you all is I come from the state of Iowa, and we're losing our topsoil at a very alarming rate. And the first time that I became aware of this issue was actually some bumper stickers in Iowa that said, "Don't farm naked." And I'm not a soil scientist, and these bumper stickers were what raised my attention to this issue, even though I went to an agricultural university, right, and studied agriculture. And so I would propose that young people in YPARD, even the ones who aren't studying soil sciences or other young people in other networks, right, can get interested in how soil affects everything else that they're doing. I also want to tell you what is youth, because I realized when I started doing this little bit that I just was hearing gasps in the audience. And it's like, okay, people don't know what the definition of youth can be. So youth can be a conceptual definition. We know this from the HLPE to the CFS from 2021, and they said, okay, youth is about roles, it's about relationships in the community. This can be from 15 to 24, which is what most of our data sets are, but it can be up to 35 years as well. In some countries, it can even be up to 40 years old, and that's the line that sometimes got some gasps from the audience, right? So young people are also people who have several years of experience under our belts, and we're leading projects, right? So you're also tapping into a lot of state-of-the-art university educations, technical school educations when you're working with us. So this is a big opportunity for soil health, but agroecology as well, and other initiatives. In YPARD, we have YPARD cafes, for example, which you can think of as seminars and workshops on specific topics. So soil is definitely an important one to cover in this type of information. We are also starting a agroecology extension project in cooperation with GFRAS and IFAD, and our project coordinator is sitting here in the audience as well. And that will train 5 agroecology fellows in 4 countries. And soil is a huge, huge, huge part of agroecology, as I think that's clear in this room. And so we can also think about other programs that we can collaborate like that to really capacitate people in a cross-cutting way for soil. So with that, my last message is partner with youth, and we're looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Jenna. Since you mentioned soil in Iowa, who knows what the most common soil type is in Iowa? Mollisol. You already won one. Mollisols. Mollisols. And what's the definition of a mollisol? It has a lot of organic material within the first 60 centimeters, and that is exactly why it's been such a productive area. And that is a perfect example of how we've been mining nutrients from the soil. So nobody gets a pin. That's fine. You already got one. So I'm so pleased now. We have Paul Liu with us. He's the executive secretary of the COP per Mill, which was launched at the Climate Change COP in 2015. ECRAF was there, we signed it. And you have been going from event to event today, promoting World Soil Day. We want to hear from you the action for policy and practice to make this a reality on the ground.
Thank you, Leanne. Hello, everybody. So, as you said, the 4 per Mill initiative was launched 8 years ago, long time now. But from that time up to today, we make a big progress in making awareness about soil health increased everywhere in all the people. Now, people cannot say we ignore it. Anymore, it's not possible. At that time, it was. So, 4 per Mill initiative, I don't want to explain to you where it comes from. It's just funny things, but you will go on the website, you will find all of that. And what I want to stress is that, as it was already said, business as usual is not possible anymore. We know perfectly now that food system need to be, and agriculture, of course, and soil, need to be really part of the solution for the climate change. Without food system, without a change in paradigm of agriculture, we'll never reach our objective for the Paris Agreement. So, just concentrate on 4 pillars. We have produced with IRD and CIRAD a policy brief, which is just released before the COP, just for all the people who would like to know about it. And they are organizing in 4 pillars, very simple. You will see, we already said all. That's what the lady said before me. Well, I don't know why I'm speaking, because everything was said already. So the first pillar is healthy soil make food production system sustainable. This is an evidence, it's obvious, but it needs to be stressed. So we need to avoid soil degradation, soil health degradation, assess the current soil health condition, and design the appropriate food system to cope with that situation and restore soil health. Second pillar, it's obvious, it's already what you said, agroecological practices make soil healthier. It's obvious? Okay, it's better when you say it again. So, but to do so, you have to anchor agroecological transformation pathway in public policy. this is need to be in the mind of the policymaker, which is not the case at the moment, not all at least. We need to disseminate and scale out agroecological practices, of course, and we need to subsidize and finance agroecological transformation. Obvious, but well, once again, better say it. Third pillar, locally co-designing makes practices more efficient. Like the soil, the knowledge, the traditional knowledge, are very well place-specific. So you need to take care of that. And agroecology is a magic because it brings the traditional knowledge with science. We need to build on that. We need to develop all the living labs, the decision-making tools, the governance, the inclusive governance, not exclusive, of course, and enhance the public-private partnership. Last but not least, science-based methodologies make transformation assessment reliable. We are talking about MRV. Of course, we need to develop MRV. We need to have MRV based on science. We need to develop metrics and associated MRV tools. We need to develop ad hoc methodology, indicator, certification. That's important also. And sure, there are some research gap. Okay, let's go for it. Finance the gap research. That's what we need. And we need to have all the stakeholders accountable for uncertainty as part of the decision process. Don't take for true what it's true today, maybe false tomorrow. So keep in mind this uncertainty and work with it. So that's the 4 messages that I would like to deliver.
So Paul mentioned policy. Can anyone name any generic policy that it would be nice to integrate soil health into? Farm Bill. NDCs. You don't get one. Romy. Excellent. Yes. You deserve one for those opening remarks. With that, we are now going to transition to our next panel, but we will have time for questions after the second panel. So hold your questions. We will applaud this panel off and bring the new panel. And now fall. All right. It's like a whole new panel. And I'm really glad that Paul ended on, what was the F word? Financing. Yeah. No, Seth, you don't get to answer anymore. And Nikita's even wearing his button. So financing. And you also talked about standards. So it's a perfect segue to our next panelist, Erica, who's from Agrina. I'll let her tell us what it is all about. But Erica, I want to ask you, how does VCM support this transition that Elizabeth mentioned to support smallholder farmers to transition to regenerative ag? And what are the implications for climate, for people, for nature? So please, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. I get the privilege of being the 5th person when the first person said that everything had already been covered, so I'm sorry for you. But I would just, I guess, start by saying what Agrina does is support farmers. We're working with 1,000 farmers across 2 million hectares of European agricultural land from the UK to Ukraine, and supporting them with finance and also technology tools to transition to regenerative agriculture by connecting them to the voluntary carbon market. So providing the much needed finance that is necessary, although I would say that there's a lot more finance which is necessary as discussed earlier. I think that the reality when we talk about climate is that there is no net zero without carbon removals. This is the situation that we're in. And beyond that, we're not, as was previously mentioned, we're not going to be able to meet the targets of the Paris Agreement if we don't if we don't transform our food and agricultural systems. And despite it being currently responsible for about 25% of world GHG, the agriculture sector has a significant potential to be part of the solution. So by transitioning to regenerative agriculture practices, we're able to restore our and rehabilitate our soils, but also use them as carbon sinks and sequester the carbon today. So it's not waiting for technical CDR removal projects to come online in the future, but actually being able to scale uptake in carbon removals today and sequestration. So we're able to basically deliver both avoidance and carbon removal potential by working with farmers and supporting them with the financial gap. In addition to that, wrong page of notes. Yeah, on the people side, obviously, we're working directly with farmers to support them with the much needed finance in order to transition. It's not going to happen if we don't provide the finance. And I think that one of the key action items we need to take into account is how do we solve for this using a farmers first mentality. What's actually happening on the field, not just in policy rooms where we're having high level discussions, but how do we enable farmers through that? And I think that there's a couple of solutions, both finance, but also knowledge. And while we're going backwards 100 years in practices, if you will, to transform our systems, it's a whole new way of farming for farmers. In many places of the world. So we need to be able to provide that knowledge base and support with that. But I think that there's larger people implications when we get into actual community resiliency and how we're benefiting society at large, but also in addition to that, providing healthier food supply, more nutritious food, and addressing not just the climate crisis, but the food crisis and being able to have long-term yield gains by farmers transitioning to regen ag. And then lastly, we step into nature. And I really think that the transition to regenerative agriculture and the voluntary carbon markets as a solution, or carbon markets in general in agriculture, provide a climate positive, people positive, nature positive implication. And this is, I think that a lot of it was already covered earlier, but the soils in 1 teaspoon have more living organisms than there are people on Earth. And by nourishing and re-nourishing our soils, then we're able to deliver on a significant impact across the board. So I was asked to bring forward a couple of kind of action items, and I think that not waiting. We've waited for long enough, and it's actually, we're in a critical situation, and we need to be addressing the climate crisis, the food crisis, and the biodiversity crisis, and enabling farmers to be able to do that with mass mobilization of finance and working collaboratively across stakeholder groups and both the public and private sector to enable action. Thank you.
No time to wait and farmers first. Fantastic. I'm very pleased to introduce our next panelist. Nikita is representing the Government of Canada from Global Affairs Canada. I think it's perfect that the government representative comes after private sector. And I have a very easy question for you. Action-oriented, how can Canada promote the importance of soil health at the policy and program interface of climate action, agriculture, and poverty reduction? Very easy question. Over to you, Nikita.
All right, thank you, Leanne. So I'll try to provide some insights on financing for soil health at the policy program interface of development assistance, right? And what we know is for any development issue, the key to financing is to situate yourself in the policy priority of a funding envelope. Easier said than done. The challenge for soils is that it's underground, it's hidden, it's out of sight, it's overlooked. Soil health is a broad concept, different elements, not intuitive for senior management and political leadership. I think I saw a definition on here that's like 3-4 lines long. I need something that's 6 words max to be able to communicate to political leadership. So what we really need to do then is to have be better at articulating the contribution of soil health to poverty development outcomes, so poverty reduction, incomes, growth, food security. More importantly, to environmental outcomes, so climate change, land, biodiversity. And even more importantly, that soil health is recognized in the application of the OECD DAC policy markers. These OECD DAC policy markers are so important and act as gatekeepers for different funding envelopes. Right? So at Global Affairs Canada, we've taken a close look at our soil health, or how our soil health is integrated and financed in our portfolio. And we saw a lot of inconsistencies, but a lot of opportunities. So, under climate finance, for example, we're supporting a range of activities throughout all of our projects that we all know as a community practice are good soil health practices for climate adaptation. Building carbon, composting, reduced tillage. But if these activities are in a project that is not, does not have an explicit policy intention to support climate change, it doesn't get the right coding. And so if it's just a good sustainable ag project that we all know is helping to adapt to climate, it doesn't get climate finance coding. Likewise, on biodiversity and nature finance, soil biodiversity is rare, is so overlooked, right, and rarely recognized. I've never seen a fully funded project just on soil biodiversity. So what we're trying to do in the Government of Canada is promote a more pluralistic approach to biodiversity, trying to move away from a focus on just trees and macrovertebrates, and might have some disagreements over here, but really to appreciate the different plurality of views that exist around farmers' relationship with nature. And we're seeing a lot of their intersection with biodiversity is with the life and nature that's underground, right? And we need to have that recognized by our policy coding. So really my conclusion is, improve the coherence of our policy frameworks, and improve the recognition of soil health in the application of these OECD DAC policy markers, and just do better at advocating and elevating our messaging on soil health. And it's at events like this where we can do this, come together as a community practice, identify the issues, discuss the solutions. And that's why the Government of Canada is really happy to be joining this coalition of action on soil health, for us to come and share our best practices, our experiences, and promote the benefits of soil health from our projects. So. Thank you.
I think we need a Nikita webinar on some of these really concrete entry points, although I'm not sure I know what OECD DAC policy points are. No, thank you so much. That was very insightful and really actionable. And I'm so pleased now to introduce Martina Fleckenstein. We've had a long road together because this coalition was launched at within Action Track 3 that was led by WWF, where Martina is representing, anchored in the UNCCD. We launched this coalition in September 2021, and look how much we've done since then. And so Martina, my question to you is, what's the road from the UN Food Systems Summit? What are some of the successes that we can celebrate? And what are the key action points that WWF and your partners are taking forward for soil health? Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. And indeed, it was a speed-up journey, I would say. We started in 2021 with the UN Food Systems Summit, where we have established the coalition on soil health. And now we are here, and you all have seen the Emirates Declaration, which is mentioning soil, also thanks to Lee and her good advocating. And also just to mention that soil is also in the non-state actors call for action, where more than 100 NGOs and civil society organizations have signed. So I think the doors are more than open to strengthen soil. And I think we should not forget Paul. And I was in Paris when we launched the Quadruple Mill. And I think this is also something, looking back, sometimes it's a slow way and it starts, but then it speed up. And I think, I have the feeling we are at this speed up moment at the here in Dubai, and also from last year Sharm el-Sheikh, where we also started a little bit, but I think this is the moment. And coming back to what you said, we need to have a more and a better coherence. And this would mean we soil, which is already recognized in the UNCCD and the land degradation neutrality, but we really want to see a stronger focus of soil health also in the outcome of here from the climate conference, and also as a follow-up process of the global biodiversity framework, where we have different targets, which also has to be implemented at national level through the national biodiversity strategy and action plans. And what we really want to see here, and if we talk about soil health and implementation, I think it's super, super important that this is happening in an inclusive way. It's integrating all the people and all the stakeholders who are dealing with soil, and that's the producers, but it's also us, the consumers. Yeah, we have also influence every day when we make a choice on what food we will have on our table. One priority for WWF in this context is soiling context with grassland and savannas and rangelands. So we really want to see stronger management, restoration, and protection of these landscapes. And if I talk about restoration and management, it's all about soil. So we have to use this opportunity also to beat the drums, not to forget this ecosystem. And finally, and as we are here at the COP, I have, and you know, NGOs always have some asks. And we really have some asks and things we want to see, and everybody who's here could help us. So what we really want to see is having food, agriculture, and food in the cover decision of this COP, which was not the case last year. We are at the moment discussing the outcome of the global stocktake, and this is all about the NDCs, the nationally determined contribution, and that's where it goes on the ground. Yeah, so setting the right frame, having agriculture and food system in the global stocktake, it's very, very important, and everybody who has influence on this. And having said this, and this is also about bringing in soil restoration in the NDCs. And we are also working with FAO, CJ, and other organizations, or we have worked on, which will be launched today, on a guidance on for NDCs for agriculture and food system. And we also have developed, once again with support also from Lee and her team, a guidance for soil and soil health. So it's so important to bring all this in line, and once again to say we have to talk about coherence. And finally, I think it's about the financial support. Nothing would happen without finance, and it's great to hear all these examples today from the private sector, from the government, but I think it's still a starting point. So, and here a little bit more scaling up would be amazing. And my last thing is really, it has also be inclusive. It has to be collaborative. It be neat, and I was in a session today. We need to think about on a multi-level governance system, because with all these pledges, commitments, who's really monitoring this? Looking back, what is happening with the Leaders' Declaration. So we really need also to make countries responsible what they are signing, and the member states. And it would be good to have a closer look on this. And having said this, thank you again for being invited. And we are not at the end of this COP. There is still a chance to influence and to bring soil in all these declarations.
Martina earns like 4 pins because she specifically named the policies as well that we can integrate soil health into. Thank you so much. Our final panelist is Nafal Madar, and he's the Vice President of Climate Action and Decarbonization at OCP. Please, action points. What is the role of private sector to scale healthy soil globally? You have 4 minutes for this very short question.
Thank you for having me. Everything has been said, so it should be shorter than 4 minutes. Just a small word about OCP. OCP, we are Moroccan African-based fertilizer leader, especially in the pea. We hold 70%. Morocco holds 70% of the world reserves of pea. So we have the duty to be a responsible custodian of this resource, especially that we cannot synthesize it, we cannot recycle it. So it's a finite resource. And it plays a big role in the construction of the roots of plants, big role for the uptake of the N, which generates GHG emissions. So the more we uptake the N in the plant, and the less we have GHG emissions. I'm not a soil scientist, but what the soil is saying is that soil has the potential to sequester 15 billion tons of CO2 per year, which kind of solves the problem if we unlock the potential of soil carbon sequestration. In OCP, we work on that on 2 sides. First, the regenerative agriculture and promotion. and 2, carbon farming. On regenerative on regenerative agriculture, we have mapped for smallholder farmers so far 60 million hectares to do customization of our products to help these smallholder farmers identify, especially in Africa, what is missing to the soil for its health and to have a good nutrition and good soil health. We have helped for that 2 million smallholder farmers in Africa. And we also promote marketplace for helping them trade and buy. We do discounts. We have also offered free fertilizers to Africa these last 2 years post-COVID. Also, we promote the 4 Rs, the right rate of nutrient, the right moment, with the right place, and with the right dose. With this customization, we have managed to see 40% improvement of yield for many farmers because sometimes the soil is missing sulfur, is missing bore, etc., and not only the big macronutrients, the NPK that we always speak about. We have also launched on the carbon farming side many initiatives. In Africa, in Brazil, we have launched, we are supporting the Morocco plan for 1 million hectare of no-tillage. This no-tillage improves the carbon, the nutrient retention in the soil, but also the water retention. It's Morocco is among 21 countries in the world that are most stressed hydrically. And no-tillage is identified as one way to sequester water. It goes like soil that receives 150 millimeter of rain. It's like it receives 250. It's an increase of 80% of water retention, let's say. We have, when we speak, as Paul spoke about MRV, we need 2 things for this carbon farming. We need technology scale up, and we need a fair business model for farmers. And that's what we are working on. On technologies, we are investing massively in technologies for MRV. We launched in Brazil projects using MRV based on LIBS, laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy, which makes soil analysis much, much cheaper for farmers, more accessible technically and financially. And on Africa, we have launched a partnership with Regro to use mathematical modeling for soil carbon sequestration monitoring, rather than the costly soil analysis yearly that are used yearly. And both are meant to, these technologies are meant to drive down the cost of MRV and make carbon sequestration, carbon farm certification cheaper and incentivize farmer for this. Last but not least, we have, in our effort, we have endorsed the high-level champion non-state actors for the declaration for food systems. And they have taken, we are happy that they have taken our comments on agriculture and sustainable agriculture and food health soil. Thank you.
No one is free from the wrath of time. Fantastic. So let's give all 8, 9 of our panelists so far a huge round of applause for this input. And we have 10 minutes for questions. I know no one believes me, but we can do this. Remember, we have youth representative, we have COP per mill, we have C4 eCraft CEO. Who wants to ask the first question? Okay. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3. Okay, Jibril, you're first. Introduce yourself.
This is Dr. Jibril Semakula Owomugisha, the founding director, Million Trees International Organization, contributors of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. The point of interest is with agroforestry. You all know that the largest piece of land, especially in Uganda, is in the hands of private farmers. And these are the local people who happen to do a lot of agriculture, which is not regenerating the soil purposes. how best can we involve agroforestry as another way of keeping the soil breathing and productive? In this way, we have a number of trees which are good for agroforestry, like Coriandra insulata. You all know these nitrogen fixers. I would wish to see if we can come up with a clear plan on how local farmers can actively be part of these projects for them to earn some good money without cutting down the trees, at the same time food security for their welfare. Thank you very much.
I know who that question's for. All right, Elizabeth. Please go ahead.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Draper from the International Biochar Initiative. My question is mostly for the women from Agrina, interested in whether biochar is part of your portfolio for carbon credits, but also kind of the same question for the man from OCP, if it's part of your fertilizer offering yet.
I like short questions. Good.
Good afternoon. I'm Timo Gasbeck from the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Soil health is really important. We've just announced $100 million euros for a soil health program in West Africa. It is really a priority for us, and I'm happy that we can support this.
Let's give that a round of applause.
I would like to make a comment. I was in Uganda and Kenya in spring and had a lot of chats with farmers about what changed in the weather. And they said, we have more dry spells than before. And then I took the rainfall data, because I dabble a bit in climate science, and I found that the dry spells have not increased over the last 40 years. What has changed is that the showers have become more intense. And what is key is that we have more runoff, less infiltration, and more drought stress with the same rainfall because of that. And soil health is key in that sense for climate adaptation. If we manage our soils, we can avoid the drought stress. So it's absolutely critical, also from a climate perspective. Thank you.
Really, everyone is so tired? Is it a quick question?
A short question. My name is Henk Holtslag. I have a question on the hard pan. The FAO 15 years ago had a report on the hard pan, which is often human-induced hard layer, 15 centimeters under the topsoil, which avoids percolation of water and avoids growth of roots. I'm wondering if this is known and it's a big problem, for instance, in Malawi and Zambia. So I was wondering if you're aware of this hard pan and if this is also a problem in other parts of the world.
All right, we have.
Thank you. She was missing me. Hello, everyone. It's Imana Bulfas from OCP, and my question is for Martina from WWF. It's a quick one. Just regarding the guidance that you mentioned, the two ones, one on the agriculture and the other on soil health, if you can just give a few insights on it. Thank you.
I'm taking control back. You have 1 minute, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you. Is it still around?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so I wanted to mention that, yes, Semakula. I think it was Semakula. Yes, I happen to come from Uganda. And I would say in Uganda we have clear farmers structures under our membership, the Uganda National Farmers Federation. We have over 90% of our districts have district farmers associations. Then we have cooperatives under the National Alliance of Agriculture Cooperatives in Uganda. Then to the coffee sector, we have institutions like New Cafe. All those are our members with structures at sub-county level, district level, and national level. So I'm happy to engage with you and let me know which part of the country you want to implement all those projects. And we have farmers' organizations well organized. Thank you.
Fantastic. Martina?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I like it. So no, this guidance tool, just for information, it has 5 intervention areas, which is food environment, food governance, food production, supply chain, consumption. And in the food production, we have guidance which is explicitly explaining what measures on improving soil health. And I could give you more insight on that. And this guidance also has information about actions you could do on the ground. It has information on co-benefits, adaptation, finance possibilities, but also the trade-offs and linkages to monitoring and evaluation systems. If you want to hear more about, at 3:30, we will launch this tool in the FAO pavilion, so happy to join us.
A little promotion. Okay, quickly.
No, Agrina is not currently focused on biochar. However, we are closely monitoring the developments which are taking place with the EU certification of carbon removal framework and kind of looking as to how things will evolve as far as expanding potential methodologies and programs there as well.
All right. Thank you so much for those questions and the answers. And we're still on time. And we are so honored that we will have closing remarks from Estherine Fontabank. She is the Director of Agriculture at the African Union Development Association, AUDA NEPAD. And the floor is yours. Good luck trying to summarize everything. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Leanne. Good afternoon. This is a packed hall, and I wouldn't try to summarize. I think I will do like all the panelists did and say, well, you heard it all. But really want to congratulate all the panelists for that really wonderful conversation that we just had. I will just recognize the presence of everyone, the head of ICRAF and all the other participants who are here, and to just share some few insights. How many minutes do I have? 1 or 2? 5. So, as we have heard from really all the panelists said this, the goal of a resilient and inclusive food system is only achievable if we invest in the health of our soils. I think everyone had said this, and this is a message that has come out really clearly. And healthy soils provides the foundation to raise agricultural productivity and to reduce the pressure to expand agriculture onto fragile lands, which is really an issue that from the continent, I'm actually speaking from an African perspective, being the development agency of the African Union. So, of course, having said those two things, now is the time for us to invest in healthy soils, for healthy diets, for healthy people, and for a healthy planet. If we do nothing, more than half of the current arable land we have may become unusable in the next few decades. With the world battling worsening climate crisis, healthy soils have demonstrated enormous potential to contribute to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Now, the African Union has called for an African Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit that will be held in 2024. This, of course, is a clear indication of the growing awareness of the African Union member states of the urgency to address issues of soil health. Some of you, I see quite a few young people here, which is a really good thing, but a few of my age mates are also here. So I think some of us will remember the 2006 Fertilizer Summit that was held in Abuja, and where the focus was only on increasing the use of fertilizers. I see our good friends from OECD here. But today, there is consensus that increasing fertilizer use alone will not address Africa's productivity gap. And I don't know how many of you do follow the CAADP biennial report, and on the targets on productivity, it's showing that our soils, the health of our African soils are not doing very well. So there's really a need for a call for urgent action. So the heightened political attention on restoring the health of our soil as the foundation of a resilient food system in the continent is an opportunity to urgently drive policy, innovation, practices, and investments that are required to rebuild our soils. I think we've heard a lot about, of course, investment, financing, and all of this. So this is a package. It's not one or the other. We need to be able to address the policy needs, the technology that are needed, and of course our practices to make the change that we need to see. Our farmers, of course, will require sustained support and incentives over many years, as restoration of our soil health is a long-term investment with few immediate benefits. I think Elizabeth spoke about this, and I'm just appealing to all the partners who are here that this is not just a short-term intervention, but it's a long-term relationship, partnerships to be able to see the kind of changes and improvement in the soil that we are talking about here today. So, of course, the African Union Development Agency and AUC, we are working with our partners, and some of you, my colleague Manyewu, who should have been here, I know he's been working with so many of you, and if I didn't come here, I think he will really give me so I had to be here. But Manyewu will be here next week, and we'll continue to work with everyone. This partnership is important. It's not something for one organization alone, but all of us have to work together. And we have, in the course of preparing for the Soil Health Summit, been working to develop an action plan. There are lots of frameworks, and I think our friend from WWF, I started my career working with WWF, yes, listed all the different frameworks that we have, and I think we are all very pleased to have the food system declaration at the summit. We have other policy frameworks, but nothing much will happen with this policy framework if we don't invest in action on the ground. So this action plan is actually being designed to help us to prepare ourselves for immediate implementation of whatever decision comes out from the Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit that will be held in 2024. Through our work and those of our partners, really, we are committed to ensure that collectively we mobilize the resources that will be needed to support implementation, to provide the necessary technical support, and, as I said, build the necessary partnerships for implementation. Not to take so much of your time, we just want to say we are really, really, really grateful to be here and to have this excellent partnership and cooperation with everyone. And to say, enjoy and have a fruitful COP28, and let's celebrate a very happy World Soils Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nothing more needs to be said. Thank you, everyone. This event is officially closed, but the partnerships and the action live on. Thank you so much, everyone.